Welcome to the Award Force Academy, a place where I will share helpful tips, tricks, and best practices. Today's topic is how to use workflows to banish repetitive review and endorsement tasks. My name is Carl, your host, and I'm very happy to be delivering today's topic. By the end of this presentation, I hope you can walk away with some useful tips and best practices to help you save time with repetitive tasks such as reviews and endorsements. Today we'll be covering the following topics: what is a workflow, discovering review flow, managing review stages, and a quick look at other potential uses. And all of this in roughly 30 minutes. Today's topic is a little technical, but I'm sure you'll find this very helpful. You can ask questions using the chat feature. However, I will address any questions near the end of this presentation. If I am unable to address all questions, I will get back to you personally. Okay, so let's start by considering what a workflow is in context to awards, grants, and other recognition type programs. A workflow is an end-to-end process required to complete the program. These workflows can often include many people, but is generally the responsibility of the program manager, that's you, and can require a lot of your time and effort. Let's take a look at some typical workflow examples and identify exactly what I'm going to demonstrate. The following examples are based on entries. We have a typical and simple entry to judging process. A process where entries need to be endorsed by someone before going to judging. A process where an entry needs to be endorsed by 2 people before going to judging. A little more complex, an entry going through to a first round of judging, then required to submit more information, followed by an endorsement before going to a second stage or final judging round. These steps I'm highlighting in these processes are what I'm concentrating on today. Let's also take a look at some typical workflow examples with nomination programs. We have a typical and simple nomination to judging process, a process where nominations need to be accepted by the nominee before going to judging. A process where nominations need to be accepted by the nominee and require the nominee to complete an entry form before going to judging. Another slightly more complex example, a process where nominations need to be accepted by the nominee and require the nominee to complete an entry form and then require an endorsement from a third party before going to judging. Again, these steps I'm highlighting in these processes are what I'm concentrating on today. These highlighted areas can all be managed using automated processes in your awards platform using a feature we aptly named Review Flow, and some of you may already be familiar with it. Okay, so let's take a look at what Review Flow is. When using the Review Flow feature, you make what we call a review stage. Making a good review stage does require a few ingredients. The key ingredients with a good review stage includes a notification to send to someone, an end date for the review stage, a person who will review or endorse the entry or accept the nomination, and the review stage itself. Like most good recipes, you need to know what you want to make before you get started. The same goes with creating a review stage. For example, are you asking for a simple endorsement? Do you need someone to provide additional information? Do you need to get permission from someone? Are you inviting someone to participate? Are you simply informing someone of a nomination? Will the decision affect entries' movements into judging rounds? Although the result or purpose for each is different, the ingredients and process are still essentially the same. When starting to put a review stage together, I like to start with the notification because this allows me to set the tone of the review stage. Essentially, it helps me define what the end result should be. We start by selecting a trigger, such as the review stage started trigger. We then define who the recipient will be. While the user option is selected here, the user is defined in the review stage. Telling our notification the recipient is a user with the review stage started trigger and associating this notification with a relevant review stage, which comes a little later, helps the notification know who the actual recipient will be. Double check the notification active status. It needs to be active to work. Set the email subject line, and finally write the body of the email. Task-based review stages will need the review URL merge field included in the body of the email. This will become a unique link for the user to click on and access the entry there to review. At this point, the review notification is simply set aside. It won't do anything at all, not until we include it with our review stage. We'll come to that soon. All review stages are managed with a date, specifically an end date. Typically speaking, a review end date will end sometime after the entry or nomination round has finished. This will allow the recipient of a review stage time to participate, but with a deadline of your choosing. You can add or edit the review end date at a later time. However, it is required, and therefore I like to add the date so I know I've done it and can test my review stage when I'm ready. If you do not include a review end date, the system will default to the entry end date. We also need to ensure there is a reviewer. The reviewer is simply the person who will receive an email where they may or may not have a task. More on the task shortly. For nomination programs and other programs where an endorsement is required, you would generally ask the entrant to provide the details of the nominee or endorser within their entry form. An absolute minimum requirement is to ask for an email address via an email field. Asking for their name is optional, but often part of the form, and if collected, can be used to personalize the email notification they'll receive, which creates a much nicer user experience. And finally, we have the review stage itself. A review stage brings everything together. There are lots of configurable options allowing you to customize each review stage to suit its requirements. Each review stage has one of two primary actions, to either be a notification only or a review task. Today, I'm primarily concentrating on the review task, as this is what can help with automating those processes. A notification-only stage is good in scenarios where you might want to alert the entrant or nominator about a decision made via another review stage as part of a chain reaction, an event causing another event. A review task requires someone to do something. They provide you with a way to allow someone who may or may not be registered in your platform to have access to an entry with restrictions you impose to view or edit as you require. This interaction can influence entries' progress into your judging rounds, meaning you can completely automate review, endorsement, and approval events. We'll jump into WardForce and take a look at a review task in action shortly, but before we do, let's take a closer look into a review task's configuration. From the first tab, we need to name the review, name the review task and select the stage type. In this case, it is a review task. If we want to automate the process, we need to select a start stage trigger. This section allows you to automatically send a review notification to the reviewer when an entry has been submitted. You can even create different review tasks per category should you need to. We then need to select a reviewer type. There are 3 reviewer types. Review by manager, if selected, will list all users in your account who have manager access to your platform. Review by person nominated in entry, if selected, will allow you to select specific fields. fields presented in the entry form. You would select the reviewer's name and their email address. Both of these options are specific field types. The name field must be a text single-line field, and the email field must be an email field. Review by entrant, if selected, will be the owner of the entry. There can only be one entry owner. That is the registered user who created and submitted the original entry. We then need to select a notification, the email that will be sent to the reviewer. You may recall I earlier said I like to create the notification first. If you do the same, then your notification will appear in the list. If you have not created any review stage started notifications, not to worry. You can continue with your setup, but we'll need to create the notification later and come back here to select it when done. Next is the Review Page tab. There are considerable options available to you from this page. However, the most important part is the list of fields. Now, I shouldn't get ahead of myself here. Let's start from the top. If you want to share the entry ID with the reviewer, you can. Just click the Display Entry ID to Reviewers option. Another option is to include a content block. This is a body of text you write and can present to the reviewer when they're viewing the entry. It's optional. However, I would strongly recommend you include a content block for best practices. It allows you to provide things like instructions to the reviewer, contact details in case they need some assistance or support from you, and dates such as the deadline. If you have certificates in your account and want to distribute these to someone, you have this as an option too. However, you will need to create your certificates in your awards platform first. This is usually a feature used after various rounds of judging and is a great way to share a downloadable A4 PDF certificate to the entrant or a manager listed in the entry. This section allows you to choose what type of attachments you would like to share with the reviewer. There are other configuration requirements needed for this, and it is only applied to documents uploaded to the entry using the attachment tab functionality. It does not control the document uploaded via file upload single field. And now for the list of fields. All of your entry fields will appear in this list. You can allow the reviewer to see specific fields, see and edit specific fields, and make specific fields required. In many cases, feedback from the reviewer is an important part of the process. A review stage provides a way for you to collect feedback from an endorser or a referee with options to keep this information in confidence. The last part of setting up a review stage is to create two buttons. These buttons appear at the bottom of the review page. That is the page the reviewer gets to see. These buttons are required. You have to use both. One is an affirmative button, that is to proceed the entry through to the next level. The other is a negative button option, that is to stop the entry from progressing. Each button comes with more configurable options. Both buttons must be named, and this is what the reviewer interacts with to complete the stage. Next is the status. The status is simply copy you add and is applied to the entry based on the decision made. This status helps you identify the decision applied and helps you find entries, but the status itself can't be used to control the movement of entries into specific rounds of judging. You'll need to add tags manually for that. Other options also include applying moderation status, something you will want to use if the decision is to control the entry's progress into a first round of judging. A stage completed notification. This is another email which you can choose to send to the reviewer to acknowledge their input and decision, a way to say thank you if you like. A content block for stage completion can be an alternative to an email, and if used, will land the reviewer on a landing page with copy of your choosing. This is my personal preference over a notification as the response is instant. And lastly, an option to start another review stage based on the decision applied from this review stage. For example, a short while ago, I mentioned the difference between a notification only and a review task stage. These checkboxes allow you to trigger, for example, another review stage that might be a notification only stage informing the entrant of the decision. Let's jump over to AwardForce and take a look at all this from a practical point of view. All right, so here we go. I'm just going to jump over. I've got something prepped in the system already just to sort of demonstrate everything I've covered so far. So first of all, coming down into settings, we have our notifications. Now, whoop, wrong section. Notifications, there we go. Now I've created a few in here already and they already have the review stage started trigger. Now I can also have notifications for review stage ending if I wanted to send that notification based on the decision made. My setup though, I'm choosing to use content blocks, so I'll demonstrate that shortly. A good way to ensure you know what your review notifications are being used for is a good subject line. So for example, this first one I'm highlighting on screen. It says, "Congratulations, you've been nominated." Now that is telling the receiver what's happening, and it's also not requiring any action from the reviewer or the nominee. If I click into it, we'll take a quick look at how I've worded the body of my email. So over here you can see we're saying, here's a nice surprise, someone has nominated you. There's nothing to do, just a courtesy email. All right, and I do not have any interactions or action tags or fields in here. On the other hand, if I come back and have a look at, say, an endorsement, so here we have an endorsement required or endorsement plus feedback required. Let's click on this one. This is a little bit different. It's still set up exactly the same way, except my wording is different. So my subject line, endorsement plus feedback required for, and I have a merge field for the entry name. So that's just simply going to pull the name of the entry. So if this is a nomination, it will be someone's name. A bit further down, I have the body. So again, I'm greeting the user, that's the recipient, by their name, which is defined in the entry form. You have been listed as a reference in the entry named whatever it is. And then I've got some instructions here. So the instructions are just basically saying what to do. There's a link below, click on that. It's got a deadline, so the email is giving all the information it needs straight away. Bit further down, this is the bit I said that you must have, all right? This is the review URL. It's available at the bottom of the notification page, but only when you select the review stage started trigger, because this merge field only applies to this trigger type. And this becomes a unique link or a URL for the recipient. Okay, so there's notifications. We'll see this in action shortly, but before we do that, we'll just jump down to our rounds. So earlier I was talking about the rounds. That's the next thing I like to do. So I have a round in here I've called entry round plus review flow end date. Now if I click into it, we'll see that I have my start and end date. That's to control the entrants or the nominators when they can start, edit, and submit their entries. But then I have a review end date. So I've set this to be 10 days after the end date of entries. That gives the reviewers a chance to review and actually submit their endorsements. Okay, next thing we do is we'll have a quick look at the entry forms. So for example, I've got one here for Chris Kringle. If I click into this to edit and take a look at the entry form, we'll have some specific information in here. So first of all, we have the name of the entry. In this case, it's Chris Kringle. A little bit further down, we're asking the nominator to provide more information about the nominee. So just breaking their name down and providing an email address. This will allow us, if we want to send an email to the nominee, letting them know of their nomination and giving them an opportunity to, for example, accept it. Now in this case, we're also asking for a reference. So I've got a referee in here, someone by the name of Rudolph. Yep, Rudolph. And we have a contact email address. So shortly what I'll be able to demonstrate is I'll send Ru an email, which is just one of my alias emails down here. and they'll have the task to review and endorse this nomination. Okay, so let's take a look at that in action. So first of all, we'll just jump down into settings and click on review flow. I have a specific review flow that I've got set up in here to demonstrate, which is this one here. All right, I'll use that in just a sec. You can see I've got quite a few review flows in here, and here I'm basically demonstrating a good or a best practice, if you like, and that is a naming convention. Each one of these has a different task, all right, or a different purpose. So this first one, it says nomination notification, and it's a notification only. So if I click into it, we'll see we don't have all of these tabs up the top. We have selected it's notification only. I have a notification to be sent and who it's going to. So anyone who's being nominated, I could trigger this one at the time the nomination is submitted, and it would send that email to the nominee and let them know with no task to do. All right, the next one though, we'll look at number 2, nomination plus acceptance. This goes just a little bit further. So it's a task this time, and although I haven't got a stage started trigger on it, if I did, when the nomination is submitted, this email is sent to the nominee and they have a task. So the task is to either accept or decline the nomination. What they get to see on their review page includes this content block, so some instructions, for example, and as I scroll down my fields, we'll see I have some turned on, meaning that the nominee will be able to see their own name and email address. And a bit further down, they'll see some other information that's presented in that nomination. And this is only for review. You can see that I have nothing writable and nothing required. So there's nothing for the nominee to do here except to accept or not accept the nomination. Okay, let's jump into my number 5 example, endorsement plus feedback. So we're going to go for an endorsement in my example in a moment. Here I have endorsement plus feedback, so it's telling me that this is what my review task is for. It's only for us as program managers. It's going to a ref, so you can see I've got a ref 1 first name as opposed to a ref 2 first name. So this is specifically going to a referee, the first referee, and their email address. I have the email notification that's going to be sent to them that'll have all of the instructions. Then I have a stage as started by entry submission. So we're listening for that action of the nomination or the entry being submitted. And then I'm choosing that I only want one category affected. So this one here I've called RF number 5, Employee of the Year. All right, so it doesn't matter if any other entries are submitted in other categories. It's only entries in this one category of my choosing that will trigger this particular review stage. I'm going to show a content block. Again, that will feature instructions for the referee. I'm showing any attachments, all attachments that have been uploaded via the attachment tab. And as I scroll down, we're going to see various fields that I'm showing, meaning they'll be able to see this information. And a bit further down, I've got some fields that they can see, edit, and they must complete as well. And then finally, we have those buttons. So we have an endorsement, and I do not endorse, followed by applying moderation. So with the affirmative, we're approving, and with the stop action, we're rejecting. Rejected status, moderation status, prevents that entry from going through to judging in any cases. Okay, let me go in and open up the Chris Kringle entry, and we'll submit this and take a look at the review flow working in action. All right, so I'm going to scroll down and click submit. Okay, so at this point, it's going through, it's submitting the entry. The review stage will be going, oh, I have something to do. I've got to send the notification. So it's going through that action right now. Okay, now I've just got off screen the notification. I'll bring that into view. Bear with me. There we go. All right, hopefully you can see that. So this is a notification that I have just received, and it is, there you go, it says, hi, Rue. So remember I had Rudolph as a reference with various information. So we have Chris Kringle in this particular category. I'm featuring the instructions, deadline, all that kind of stuff, and there's that unique link I was talking about before. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm not going to click on this directly. I'm going to copy and paste it. And the reason for that is because I'm already logged into my account here. So I want to show you what it's going to look like from a referee's point of view when they're not logged into the program. For me to do that, just move that out of the way. And I need to open up an incognito window to demonstrate this to you. All right, paste, click that in. Just need to focus on this part. Okay, so here we go. I'll accept those cookies. So we can see that I have my page. I have some instructions, contact information up the top, deadline information. As the referee, it's now just a matter of scrolling through, having a look at everything. Here's the information that I can see, but I can't edit. Then a bit further down, I have the fields that I, as a referee, I have to complete if I want to endorse. All right, so I'm just going to say I've known Chris Kringle for, 100 years, and I'll just complete this by writing in test. I've now completed all required fields. As the referee, I can now endorse this. So I'm going to click endorse. Okay, I've just landed on a thank you page. So remember, I chose to use a content block and land people here, and I'm saying thank you for the endorsement. That's the affirmative action, as opposed to sending an email to say thank you. You can do both, or you can do one or the other, or you could do none. Don't do none though, because people get confused. They don't know if they finished, they don't know if it's working. So let them know they have successfully finished their task. Okay, let's take a look now. I'll drag this one out of the way and we'll come back here. So right now, I'm going to refresh my page. I'm going to see some changes here. Just bear with me for a second. Got a few things in my way. There we go. So I'm going to refresh my page and we'll see some status changes with the Chris Kringle entry. And there you have it. We have a status approved, which has been applied via the decision made by the referee, and my status. All right, all good. Excellent. Let's jump back to our presentation. Just readjust my page here a little bit. Oh, there we go. Sorry about that. It should be all nice and pretty again. Okay, so your awards platform can help greatly with automating a review workflow. However, people are still people, and for many reasons, might not complete a review task. They might forget about the review task or simply don't trust its legitimacy. So you might need to follow up with the reviewers, remind them of the task, and set their minds at peace. You might think once a review task has been sent, all you can do is sit back and hope and pray they respond. And in many cases, that could be the case, but not with AwardForce. You do have options, things you can do to increase your chances of your reviewers completing their tasks. You have a dedicated view in your awards platform called Manage Reviews. From here, you can filter for reviews with no decisions and send a broadcast email to these reviewers as a friendly reminder of the task. It's a great and easy way for you to reach out to your reviewers. Let's jump back into AwardForce for a sec and take a look at Manage Reviews and see it working in action. Okay, so back over here, we know that we just approved this one. So if I come to Manage Reviews, we'll see all reviews that have been initiated. So I've got some here already. This is the one that just happened. So Rue, or Rudolph, is the person that has said, yep, good, thumbs up to Chris Kringle. But we want to contact everyone else down here who hasn't done it yet. We might be getting close to the entry or the deadline for nominations or endorsements. So at the top, we'll click on the Advanced button up here in the top right corner. From here, we can filter for everything by a no decision. That will give us a filtered list. We have 6 results. Click on the Broadcast button. It's going to take us over, and we can now send a broadcast to these reviewers. One thing we must do, though, is when we write the email subject line and the body, is we really want to include this review task URL. You click in here, you write your body, click on the review task URL, it will add it to the email body. That will turn into the original unique link for each one of those reviewers so that they can click on it, come into the program, and continue. I have one that I've prepared a little earlier, so I'll just open that one. So here's an example. We're saying, hi, you were sent an email, you haven't finished yet, whatever you want to say, whatever copy you've got in there, and I'm including that review task URL. Let's have a quick look at this in action as well. So I'm going to click on review and send. This is simply going to show me the preview. Our review task URL isn't a link yet. Once I send it, it will be. Go down to the bottom, click confirm and send. All right, so at this point, once again, it's going to go through the process of sending an email. So I'll just go to my email. I'm going to grab that as soon as it comes through. There we go. I'm going to open one of these. Sorry, I'm off screen at the moment, but there we go. And display my images. All right, so there's the body of the email that I was showing you in my broadcast a moment ago, and with that unique review URL. So clicking on that, once again, it'll take me into the system and allow me to complete my task. Okay. Right, so that was pretty easy, really, to go through and create a reminder, if you like, for all of those reviewers. But some people could still be hesitant, especially if they are not aware of your program or they don't recognize your URL or your branding. So here are some best practices you can consider. Provide as much contact information as you can, especially offline contact details, such as your address and contact phone number. A real person to contact, such as your name, instead of something like the management team. You could even include, with your name, a link to your LinkedIn profile or your profile page on your website. Also, you could also include any company information. Ensure you have links to your website about your program. This can help if someone wants to look into your program and investigate its legitimacy. Strongly recommend to your entrants and nominators that they personally contact their reviewer to inform them they may receive a request from you. And avoid spam, trigger, keywords, and characteristics in your subject line and email body, such as the word reminder, and having everything said as capital letters. Okay, we're really close to the end now, but just before we finish up, there are a few other potential uses you could use the review flow feature for, and I wanted to share some of these ideas with you. A review stage is not limited to just procuring an endorsement of sorts. You can use it as part of its second stage submission process, an internal probity check process, an alert system for when entries are submitted, an announcement tool letting entrants know of their success with an endorsement. You could even use it as a marketing tool, collecting names from entrants who they think might be interested in participating in your program, and then send those people an invitation to participate. Okay, so there you have it. To make a good review stage, all the ingredients are essentially the same. The result? Well, that's just up to you. Well, we're now at the end of today's presentation. Before we end, I'll just see if there are any particular questions. At this stage, I can't see anyone who has questions, which means I think I've done a good job today. But look, if you do have any questions, please send your questions through to our support team, our client success team, at support@awardforce.com. Okay. Well, I'd like to sincerely thank you all for watching today. I hope you have been able to get some great ideas, tips, and insight from today's webinar on how to use workflows to banish repetitive review and endorsement tasks. Thank you, and see you next time.